So I used to be a chronic underspender in my early 20s. And looking back, I honestly harbor a lot of regret over this period of time in my life. I personally think that underspending is one of those spending patterns and behaviors that gets no attention, but it is a big problem. Fast forward to my mid 20s, and I feel like the pendulum swung completely in the opposite direction. And I struggled a lot with impulse spending and overspending because I was overcorrecting for all of the things that I didn't buy that I might have needed and experiences that I didn't have in my early 20s. Now I'm 29 and I'm turning 30 this year, and I finally feel good about the way that I spend my money, but it's taken a long time to get here. There's a lot of personal finance jargon on the internet, but here at Break Your Budget, we cut through the crap and focus on getting the basics right. Part of knowing what you like to spend money on and figuring out your spending values also means figuring out what you don't want to spend money on. And that's what I'm going to focus on today. So with that, here are 5 things that I don't spend money on as a financially conscious person in her late 20s. Number 1 is anything that is pre-made or pre-cut or pre-packaged at the grocery store. And this largely applies to dips, dressings, sauces, breads, pre-cut vegetables, and anything in that realm. I would say in my later 20s, this is when I really started to realize that I am an ingredient person and I want to be an ingredient household. Not only because it's less expensive, but also because I think it's healthier. So ever since I turned, I would say like 27, I've really made the initiative to start making things from scratch at home. And sure, sometimes this takes a little bit longer, but I honestly think that spending the time on making what you eat at home from scratch can make a huge difference. Again, not only in your health, but how you feel about your body and how you feel about yourself. So here's what I do. I learned how to make my own breads from scratch. So I largely do like the no knead New York Times bread recipe. And every month I'll just buy a bag of flour, I'll buy a little bit of yeast, and I make a loaf of bread every week. Bread is one of those things that has gotten super expensive and super over modified at the grocery store. And it's actually very inexpensive and very easy to make yourself. When it comes to some of the other stuff like pasta sauces, I always make my own pasta sauce, teriyaki sauce, hummus, all of my salad dressings. These are all things that I make with just basic ingredients that I already have in my pantry. The last layer of this is I don't buy anything that is pre-made, for one, and I also don't buy vegetables and fruits that are pre-cut. I think we all know that these are more expensive, but sometimes in the name of convenience, you might reach for them. There is no need to be spending $3 or $4 on a cut up onion when a regular onion costs like 50 cents and you can cut it up yourself. So when you're thinking about going to the grocery store in your grocery list, don't only focus your meal planning and your grocery list around what you want to eat. Also think about the time and how long it will take to prep the ingredients so that you can be realistic and make sure that you are not spending money that you don't need to spend on things that you can do yourself. Number 2 is I don't buy any planners or aesthetic office supplies, or really any office supplies in general. I found throughout my early and mid 20s that I would always buy like an annual planner and a notebook, and I would want to have highlighters and pens and all this stuff on my desk, both in the office and when we all went work from home during the pandemic. What I've learned about myself is that this is very well intentioned and I think it's going to make me more productive, but it doesn't actually, because I'll have a planner and I'll use it for like a week, maybe a month, and then it collects dust. There is no need for me to be spending $40 or $50 on a planner every single year. There's no need for me to have an excess of pens and highlighters and notebooks and office supplies. Instead, I use my iPad and I also use Notion, and I do all of my planning digitally. Not only does this save me the money on buying office supplies that I don't use, but it also helps me avoid clutter. It keeps my desk clean, and I honestly think I'm way more organized this way. That's not to say that buying a planner can't help you, but if you find that you're buying a planner or you're buying office supplies to just decorate your desk and you're not actually using it, then you may want to reconsider how you are mapping and planning out your days and your weeks. I really love Notion. If you are interested in learning more about how I use Notion, let me know. Number 3 is I no longer buy physical books and instead I use my Kindle. And I won't say this is an all or nothing thing, but it mostly applies to fiction books. So I'm a big reader. I love, the fantasy of it all. I am a big ACOTAR fan. I'm currently reading Throne of Glass. Like, I have gotten into my reading era, I would say, over the last year and a half. The challenge with being in your reading era is that it's really easy to collect lots of books, especially if the books aren't available at your library, because I know someone's going to say, well, you can just take it out of the library or you can rent it on Libby, which I totally understand, but sometimes I don't want to wait. And as a result, you end up buying the book. I don't think it's necessary, and it's not something that I have done or will do, to buy a book that I'm only going to read one time in its physical form. A, because then what do you do when you're done reading the book? And B, it just, again, takes up space and collects dust in the home. So I use my Kindle. I've had my Kindle for a very long time. And if I do buy the book, I'll buy it on the Kindle. The books that I will buy physical copies of are nonfiction books that I will return to again. So these would usually be like business books or self-help books. But I really try to be extra intentional about buying any physical book. When I moved recently from LA to Chicago, I actually brought a ton of books with me that I had bought in the past or had been sent to me, and I donated probably 90% of them to the library because I just don't want to have tons of books in my house. So I no longer buy physical books unless it is a very specific, like self-help or business or productivity book. Number 4 is I don't get my nails done and I don't go and get any sort of expensive treatment, whether it be a facial, massage, etc. I do get a pedicure once a month because I feel like my feet are something that needs to be professionally taken care of. But years ago, I used to be a chronic manicure, gel nail, gel X kind of gal. I always had my nails done. I had to stop doing that during the pandemic. And honestly, I never picked it up or I never picked it back up because it's gotten so expensive. And I don't disagree with like obviously paying people, that's their job. And you have to pay them for the service. But I personally don't think it's necessary to be spending $80 every 2 weeks to have my nails done. If I do want to have my fingers done, I can just do them by myself at home. Or I can just make sure that I keep my nails clean and cut and taken care of. And I just have my own little maintenance routine for my nails that I do by myself. In regards to like facial treatments and massages, I've gotten massages in the past. And honestly, I just like really never enjoyed the experience. And I've gotten nice massages done at like fancy hotels and really fancy spas. What I found is I was getting a massage because people told me that I would really enjoy it, but I actually didn't enjoy the experience at all. And more often than not with facials, I find that I'm just disappointed in the end result. And instead, I've invested in my own skincare at home. I have a red light face mask, and I find that this has really done the most with clearing up my skin and keeping my skin looking nice. Again, this isn't to say that in the future, maybe I wouldn't get some sort of facial treatment done, but I'm definitely not getting any massages, and you will never catch me at the nail salon getting my fingernails done. And number 5 is I no longer buy patterned or trendy or honestly colorful clothing. And this is because I have spent a lot of time figuring out my style and figuring out what are the types of clothing that I am reaching for on a regular basis. And what I have found I am most comfortable in and what my personal style is more neutral tones that can be mixed and matched with each other. So my general overarching color palette in my closet is black, white, gray, and tan. And those tend to be the clothes that I am purchasing the most. Any sort of patterned clothing item, I honestly never wear it. I don't reach for it. And so I am no longer going to be buying clothes like that. There's just no point in buying clothes that you're not going to be wearing all the time. I also no longer buy items that are trending for the season because in my mind, I would rather spend a little bit more money on a clothing item that I'm going to have for years that's a little bit more classic and traditional as opposed to the item of the moment that I'm only going to wear a few times over the course of a 6-month period. For me, fashion and style is really all about knowing yourself, knowing who you are, what you like to wear, and what you feel you're best in. And for me, I feel my best wearing basic clothes that are, I have a capsule collection. Like I like to wear jeans. I like to wear long sleeve shirts, the occasional cool jacket, maybe a sweater, but outside of that, I'm not really experimenting and I'm okay with that. So I challenge you this year to really figure out what your personal style is and start being more intentional about the clothes you're buying so that you can make sure the cost per use is as low as possible. So with that, those are 5 things that I no longer spend money on. And I would love to hear in the comments if you have something to add to this list. Obviously, you can't not spend money on certain things 100% of the time, but these are things that I am making a conscious effort to avoid spending my money on when I can. If you enjoyed this video or you're enjoying this conversation about spending, let me know in the comments. If you have a personal finance topic that you would like to hear about, I'd also love to hear it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And with that, I will catch you in the next one.